Next we have an award ceremony. News 18 would like to honor and reward the institutions that are rediscovering, redefining and reimagining the teaching-learning process and preparing students for life. I now request Dr. Vikrant Sharma and Sia Tripathi on the behalf of Mr. Gurdeep Singh Sehra, Pro-Chancellor, GNA University. Dr. Kamalpreet Kaur on the behalf of Dr. Kashmir Singh, Director and Principal, Mata Gujri College, Fatehgarh Sahib. I now request Dr. Zora Singh, Chancellor, Desh Bhagat University, to please come on the stage. And moving on to honor our sponsors, I'd like to invite Dr. Gurbinder Singh from Thapar Institute of Engineering and Technology, Patiala. I'd request Mr. Navdeep Singh Bhatti, Director, ESS Global, to please come on the stage. Global, our overseas education partner. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Let's now move on to the fourth session of the summit, Creating a World of Hybrid Education. Let's look at the audio visual about this session.
कोविड-19 के बाद सामान्य हुए हालात में ट्रेडिशनल एजुकेशन सिस्टम ने कई चैलेंजेस का सामना किया है। रिसर्च साबित करती है कि स्वयं वर्चुअल लर्निंग एंड ब्लेंडेड लर्निंग का मेल स्टूडेंट्स के लिए काफी फायदेमंद है। क्रिएटिंग अ वर्ल्ड ऑफ हाइब्रिड एजुकेशन सेशन में TCY ऑनलाइन और प्रेप लेडर के सम्मानित प्रतिनिधि अपने विचार साझा करेंगे।
Editor, News 18 Punjab, Haryana, Himachal, to please escort the panelists on the stage. Mr. Kamal Vadhera, CEO, TCY Online. Mr. Dipanshu Goyal, co-founder and CEO, Prep Ladder. Mr. Kamal Vadhera is the founder of one of the biggest edtech platforms, TCY Online. TCY Online is being used by millions of students in coaching centers in India and abroad. Mr. Dipanshu Goyal is a doctor who turned to the field of education. Prep Ladder is an edtech company targeting students preparing for competitive exams, providing relevant, high-quality content to them. Over to you, Jyoti Kamal.
Thank you so much, Archie. In fact, I must congratulate Jagmeet because he's got such a great mix of panelists this time round in terms of absolute nation builders who are kind of single-handedly building educational institutes like we had in the session just before, Satnam Sandhuji, Channi and then we have all the legendary institutes led by very capable people. There are new models of globalized education that are coming in. And then there is this very different model that you are filling. There is this gap in this whole sequence of events, which is hybrid education, which is add-on education, which is supplemental education, which is app-driven, which is technology-driven. It started off, say, 20 years back when there used to be these scanned notes that people used to be sharing, which were like the school startups that people would just take scanned notes and send them or kind of upload them to a drive and then they would be downloaded. You would have these file transfer systems and people would actually go to Pirate Bay and stuff to actually get downloaded notes. And now we have evolved to a system where you have extremely sophisticated algorithms which are behind the scenes working to figure out what needs to be displayed, how much content has to be given, how is your learning taking place. And there is this whole gamification, which is the next level of education now, which is how do you gamify education. We were just talking about, Satnam Sandhuji was also mentioning that how do you retain interest of students in the classroom. There is this whole new technology of gamification which is now coming in, where you actually feel that you are actually playing a game while you're studying. So each point that you're learning is adding up to your score and you get a sense of satisfaction after it. A golden coin kind of bouncing up that, okay, you've learned something. So there is this whole gamification taking place. But Vadera ji, you got into this journey a long time back. What made you get into this online supplemental mode of education? And what were the challenges that you faced initially? And how has that evolved to its current state? Where is it today?
I think, first of all, thank you. Like most entrepreneurs, I would say some pain point that you faced, during your formative years. So maybe so did I. So I may not give you any vivid example or something. But I think throughout my academic journey, I felt that, a student hardly knows what he or she is born to be. So there was this simple thought in our minds. So my brother and I, we co-founded this company, TCY, way back 1998. So with this simple thought process that can we help learners become what they were born to be. So this is a very broad statement, and of course it is still in the works, long journey. Okay, we haven't even the surface is not scratched yet. But it was only post-internet when we started feeling more excited about it. Oh wow, now by capturing data throughout the academic journey of the student, we can make some sense out of it, that we can help them become at least what is the natural career propensity at the next step. So to some extent it has helped. And as I said, that it's an iterative process. It is still in the works. So, but this is one kick that we get every day if we can help students become, or at least give some sense to them that these are your next level natural career propensities or the next milestone of your journey. So that's how it started, and we are continuously working in that direction.
Vadiraji, though I already know the answer, I mean in the sense that when COVID hit and when you suddenly had the lockdown and you had kind of students all locked up, they had left their universities, they had gone back to their homes, you have been working all along for the last decade and a half in this area. Did you see a massive spike in your server utilization and the kind of load that your servers were getting? Obviously, I assume that yes, obviously that would have happened. How big was that spike? Was it phenomenal? Was it like something which you had not even imagined? And has it managed to sustain itself, or are you seeing it again kind of taper down and once again the traditional mode of education kind of take off? But, or has it tapered down but still is at a level much higher than what it was pre-COVID?
Very good question. So we have two models, Jyoti. One is B2C and one is B2B. As far as B2C goes, yes, we saw sudden spurts and there was a lot of concurrent traffic, on the server. So that issue was there. But unfortunately, a large part of our enterprise revolves around B2B, which means we help other coaching centers through academics, ERP and other resources for them to cater to their learners in their classrooms. And for those 2 years, coaching centers were almost shut. Okay, so there was a lot of dip because that use case just disappeared all of a sudden. Let's say we were catering to that point of time 800 coaching centers, and those coaching centers are shut. So in fact, I would say that part of our enterprise, so it was lying unutilized. But yes, B2C spurts were there. So I would say we survived because we had a mix of B2C, B2B. If it were only B2B, it would be kind of, might have been going out of business. Okay, now, what was your next, what was the second part?
I was asking you,
yeah,
did
coming
you
back,
see,
sorry.
did you see a
Yeah,
spike
yeah,
in
yeah.
usage? And
Suddenly-
has the spike tapered off, or has it remained at a high level?
Yeah, sorry. So, one thing we always stuck to, which really, really helped us, I'll tell you what. No matter what we were going through, we always believed in one thing. Instead of creating something that would replace the teacher, we would always be in an endeavor that we should be kind of we always kept teacher at the center, that we would be enabling them to create better outcomes for the learners. So post-COVID, now since centers are open, everything is open, one thing good is that now intuitively, they have picked up technology, which otherwise would have taken maybe 7, 8, 10 years. Now they have picked up those things in these 2 years, which otherwise could have taken much, much longer. So that is helping us cover up everything. And now actually we are seeing that traction, the use cases which are getting automatically proven, the classroom is flipped, and the kind of results that we see, those are phenomenal. So these are, we have entered a very, I would say, great times now, hopefully.
Yes. Yes. In fact, Dipanshu, kind of taking it from there, like whenever you get into a journey, unless you take those turns, you don't see the way ahead. You'll only see the corridor till the wall that you can see. You have to cross the door and know where the corridor goes. You reach the next corridor, the next door, then you know where it goes. When you started your journey, it's been a phenomenal journey. Did you know where you're eventually going to kind of land up, or it was like constant iterations along the way, it was constant tangential routes being taken, it was constant kind of innovation on the way? How did you start and how did it go?
Okay, so first of all, thank you for having me here. I would say I'm the wrong panelist for this discussion because I have personally dedicated my life to make sure that hybrid learning does not exist and it all moves online, right? So,
elaborate on that. What have you spent your life doing?
So see, in the category that we work in, so I would say that education is not one thing, right? It's an umbrella term wherein there could be 100 different businesses, right? So we work in higher education test prep, right? I believe this is a segment that can move 100% online, no offline required, right? And I would say that on record, right? And we are on a mission to do that especially for higher education, coaching classes don't exist around the country and everything comes to Prabhat. So we are out to take it all, first of all, right? Talking about your point, when we started back in 2016, so it was a 2-people company. We started out of our basement. We had...
I mean, just to clarify, in case anybody didn't get it, what you are essentially saying is that you don't believe in a hybrid model. You actually believe in a completely online model.
For my segment, right? So
for your segment.
Higher education test prep, so which is like a niche, right?
Right.
Yeah, so coming back to your question, so when we started, it was a 2-people company working out of a basement, no external help whatsoever, and we never raised money. And actually, I would say where we've reached, I never actually thought we would get there, right? Ambition bhi nahi tha, matlab utna, right? So, and you're definitely correct that you hit a wall and then you maneuver around it and then you keep growing. So yeah, and we've been profitable all along our journey, and by 2019 I think we had created about a $15 million business, ARR business, and then we got acquired by Unacademy in 2020.
There is this whole new concept now that learning doesn't stop. There used to be an earlier concept that you kind of undergo your schooling, you go to grad school, you do your post-graduation, you get a job, and that's about it. Then the job is your kind of future. But considering the fact that so many things are changing in the world, you need this constant upgradation now. There is something called lifelong learning now, because you let go of lifelong learning, you'll fall by the wayside. Like there is this thinker Yuval Noah Harari who keeps talking about the fact that in this world, there is going to be a new whole set of people who are going to be called the useless class, because they will not know what to do. Because the jobs which are low-level jobs, they will get automated. They'll get taken over by machines. You want to kind of clean the roads, you want to kind of sell vegetables, you want to do truck driving, you want to do any of those jobs, eventually they'll be taken over by the machines. The next level or the top level jobs will become so difficult and will require such specialized skills that a lot of people who didn't acquire them will have trouble acquiring them, or they won't be able to acquire them. And when such a situation happens, this large base of people will become useless. You wouldn't know what to do with them. What job do you take them on? So that will become a challenge for society. Ultimately, that's a challenge for education. How do you kind of make sure that doesn't happen, because that will be societal chaos. So are you looking also at a model which is now lifelong learning? Like for example, your medical kind of programs. Students who are in college, they kind of go through your notes, they kind of follow them, they prepare for their medical classes, but that doesn't mean that's the end of learning. Thereafter, they'll have lifelong learning. So at some point in time, are you envisaging a situation where you will be providing lifelong brushing up of skills, lifelong learning, or will you remain in a narrow band that you are currently operating in, which is higher education completely online?
So I believe that lifelong learning is definitely, something that you cannot do without, right? So even as a CEO, I read 5 books at least in a year, right? And that helps me grow as an operator and as a manager for my people, right? So definitely lifelong learning is required. Also, I'll come back to your question later, but I also believe that this useless class, I'm sure this is from the Yuval Noah Harare's books, right, that you're mentioning. So I believe that situation is far in the future, right? We're not there right now.
And he also makes a rider that we might call them useless in terms of employability. Doesn't mean they're useless for their friends, doesn't mean they're useless for their family, doesn't mean they're per se useless. It's just that in terms of employability, it will be a challenge. What job do you put them on?
Right. So I believe that, that situation actually is far in the future.
And might not happen.
Sorry?
And might not even happen.
It is coming. It is definitely coming. Far in the future, but yes, it is definitely coming. So, but right now I believe India's strength is its demographic dividend, right? I believe every country has to go through stages of, the first stage would be excel in manufacturing, right? And then you go to services, and then eventually you go to automation, right? So we first have to go to the first stage wherein manufacturing, and this would require a lot of entrepreneurs plus a lot of skilled labor, right? So both have to marry together to actually get India to a stage wherein we are the manufacturing hub for the world, right? And then it would come to services, and probably India has directly jumped to services, but a lot of people are left behind there. So, but then it will go to services, and then it would go to automation, and that problem would arise there, right? Now coming back to your question, would Prep Ladder ever go into lifelong learning? My answer would be no. So we are a very, very focused organization. We only play by our strengths, and we know very well what our strengths are. So we would stay in test prep, and we would stay in higher ed test prep.
Kanji, you have been listening to all other sessions that have taken place so far.
Before that, can
yes,
I add
yes,
a point
please.
here?
Yeah.
So, my reply to this question of yours is, first of all, I firmly believe that humans, it's natural with all of us to evolve, first of all. We move up the pedestal, okay? So let's, as a simple analogy, I would say, if you go to the US, let's say you're on the West Coast, you will, if you're traveling on a highway, you would see very, very large agriculture, land holdings, but you would hardly see labor working there. I'm sure this was not the case 3-4 decades back. So what happened to those people, so that labor? It's not that they just disappeared, left the country or something. Similarly, you go to Detroit, so you would see lots of manufacturing, big setups, so they don't have those blue-collared workers that they had 2 decades back. So, and the second thing that I want to come to is transferability of skills. So we don't realize that when the situation comes, we have lots of transferable skills that we can, take up in the other fields. Why go far? So we have, I think, couple of lakhs of delivery boys in our country that is through Zomato, Swiggy, that were not there okay, until 7-8 years back. So people step up. People, if I have to feed my children no matter what, so I would see what skills I have, how can I transfer those skills to other fields. So, but at the center you have to see one thing. If innovators are not there, then there is a chaos. If you have innovators, they will create other opportunity where, you know, most of us, if we go jobless today, would be employed elsewhere. Hope I'm able to make myself clear. So it's very, very important for societies to make sure that we create the ecosystem for innovators, because they are the ones who would solve all these problems. Otherwise, they would go to the Silicon Valley and solve problems there. If we won't have many innovators here, yes, a large chunk would go jobless, and you will see a lot of chaos in the society. So that's my point here.
Dipanshu, Kamalji was just talking about the fact that we have to create an environment for innovators, an environment for somebody to actually want to create something new. Now, here is your case. You have actually created something new, and you have actually created something which is valued at almost 500,000 crore rupees. And it's no mean feat. I mean, it's a number which is difficult to imagine. I mean, at least for me, it will take me at least, I think, 100 lifetimes to come anywhere close to that number. So you have created that value. What did you find in your environment that enabled you to do it? And what is the environment that we can create so that we can have more like you? What did you find in your environment firstly that made you you? And what can now be created in the environment to have more like you?
See, eventually, you'll eventually excel at things that is a personal problem to you, right? So after MBBS, for a couple of years, I was trying to get into PG. I was not, I was not able to get into PG, right? While all my other friends were getting into PG. So
do you thank your stars that you didn't manage to get into PGI now?
yeah. So it turned out well eventually. So yeah, and that was a personal problem to me, right? And then me and my friend, we started creating this product, and eventually we kept getting better, and eventually we got here. Now I believe the product and the service that we've created can be, and talking about our scale in medical PG, about 150,000 people take the exam, students take the exam, and we have about 140,000 active paid subscribers right now, right? So that's the scale that we have in medical PG. So, and we definitely want to build a monopoly in all the other categories also that we're entering. So I'm sorry, what was the question again?
So my second question was, the first part of it was, what was there in your environment which made you do what you did? And what can now be made, because that's what we have been discussing, that what environment can we create which can actually lead to more people like you innovating and being entrepreneurs?
See, maybe I don't see that there was anything special about me, right? One. Second is, I have a 5-year-old daughter, right? And I believe that the content that she's watching right now on YouTube and she's addicted is absolute rubbish, right? I believe, first of all, so again, I believe that you cannot create a good K-12 product in terms of edtech that the kids would also like to watch, right? Eventually you can sell to the parents, because parents, are scared कि मेरा बच्चे का क्या होगा. But then you cannot create a product that actually the student, the kid would want to watch, right? So first of all, create good content for kids that they want to watch, right? I think we can all start from there, and that is a huge problem right now that again I am facing with my kid. I believe somebody should solve that for India. That is, I believe, solved for US. I see a lot of good YouTube channels in US, but I don't see one in India. So I believe that would be a start. Apart from that, all the, so I've visited Plaksha University also, and I've visited all these other universities wherein there's a lot of focus on entrepreneurship now, right? I believe ki we are, we might not agree to it, but we are privileged, right? We are educated. I knew that, you know, even if I don't make any money for 6 months from Prep Ladder, it would always be okay for me to, you know, fall back on my father, right? And he would take care of it for, right, 6 months. So eventually people that are privileged, people that are educated, people that have a family support definitely should be looking at entrepreneurship as a you know, means. And just the industry leaders and all the educational institutes that are putting a lot more focus into it, I think we're heading in the right direction there.
One can clearly see that you hit upon an idea and then over time you have sharpened your focus, and one can see that laser-like focus now in terms of making sure that it's a successful product. So Kamalji, just to kind of give you the last word, because with this we'll be wrapping up the technical side of today in terms of the sessions that we had. You heard the first session, which was about legendary institutes innovating, transforming, looking at further changing the education landscape. The second session was about globalization of education, on how there are trends from the world being brought into India, where there are new models being tried out like ISP and Plaksha. The third was about people who are like nation builders, who create institutes, just being a handful of people, like Channi ji, Sandhu ji, in terms of 35,000 students, thousands of students studying there. And now there are people like you who are like, not that now, it's been for a long time, who are in the business of hybrid education. He doesn't want to talk about that, he says completely online, but still it's another model. How do you string all of this together and look to the future of education? That's your last word.
So I would talk something which may appear to be a tangent to this, what you're asking. But I firmly believe in a couple of things, that society becomes what it celebrates. So pick up the papers and see what we celebrate. Celebrate the right heroes, right means whatever heroes you want to celebrate, and you would see the next generation trying to become that. You know, again I'm saying, if you're in London, simply pick up the paper and see what's being celebrated or what's the main thing. Pick up the paper here, Economic Times or anything, so you would know where the society is headed. This is one. Taking one thing from what Mr. Singh from Thapar said, and then Director Peck replied to that 3% of the resources are being, 50% of the resources are being spent on 3% of the students. And the Director Sahab said that he would be liberal enough to do it 6%. I would rather make it 1%. Because I firmly believe it is the outliers who create stuff. Okay, wherever you speak of equitable distribution of money, that is the sure, short way to destroy institutions. I cannot talk of government institutions or society at large, but if I have just 350 people in my organization, and I have simply believed in one thing. Around 16 years back, I was attending a session by Dr. Mashelkar. He was the then DG of CSIR, I think, or maybe he was retired. He mentioned one thing which kind of has become the part of my DNA. He mentioned a term called Lotka, Lotka's law. In today's parlance, we may call it 2080 or whatever. So unless you really, I would say, celebrate stars or superstars like superstars, you would create mediocrity in the society. Because if all the resources, all the money, most of the recognition, most of the visibility is given to those stars, they will create a beautiful society. Spend some time in the valley, you would know how valley is different from the rest of the US, and how US is different from the rest of the developing or underdeveloped countries, and writing is on the wall. So just reward your superstars and they know how to take care of the rest of the thing. Again, simple examples are, I would not say innovator here, but if you saw a man like Azim Premji here or a Bill Gates in the US, try to take money from them through force, that is through taxes. Would they contribute this much to the society that they have already, maybe more than 50% of their wealth? So innovators or wealth creators always want to see a good prosperous, healthy society around them. So just set them free, and I'm sure the world would be a very beautiful place. So don't mess with innovators, don't mess with capitalists, I would say. They really, most of them want to create a beautiful world around them. That's all I want to
I would agree with you, and as you said that society should celebrate the right kind of people, that's what we have tried to do today, celebrating educational leaders like you all.
So, one thing I would like to add about the future of education. I don't know you know this or not, but we've recently launched a product called Relevel under the Unacademy group, right? So in that product, you just take a test, you pass that test, and you get a job, right? At the top companies, right? And those jobs, we don't even tell the companies which college the student is from, right? You just pass that test, and those jobs are not starting jobs. Those jobs are, say, 30 lakh a year, 40 lakh a year kind of jobs, right? You just have to display that you have those skills, and you get that job, right? So I believe that is the future of education, skilling, and then obviously how good can you get at the skill that you have, right? So definitely skilling, I would say, might disrupt colleges in the short term.
Which product is that?
Relevel.
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 Relevel. Now that's an interesting concept. We were just talking about ISB building up credibility of its model of education. What you are saying is you can study from anywhere, do whatever, come to Relevel, pass the test, and no questions asked where you have come from, what your background is, you get a job
and
at a high level kind of
chase you. The top companies would chase you, and the founders are very happy hiring from Relevel, because that's not a self-generated CV, right? That's a CV, that's a standardized test that we've put across, and founders are very happy hiring from there.
Clearly the idea of the discussion today was to kind of show us what all is possible in the world, what is changing in the world of education. Many things are changing, many new opportunities. The bottom line remains the same. If somebody wants to do it, the opportunities are always there. Thank you so much, Dipanshu. Thank you so much, Kamalji, for participating in today's discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Please stay on the stage. Now I'll request our Managing Editor, Jyoti Kamalji, to please felicitate our guests. Mr. Kamal Vadera, CEO, TCY Online. Mr. Dipanshu Goyal, co-founder and CEO, Prep Ladder. This was the discussion on education and its future for today, and now we have something for our wonderful audience. Now we'll move on to a special session of poetry. We have with us here a poet from the city. Let's look at an audio visual about our poet and his poetry.
ਕਿਹੜੇ ਪੜਾ ਤੇ ਆਣ ਕੇ